What's up, everybody? Justin here. I am back. I am sorry that it has been a while. I know in my last video I said it wouldn't be a while, but then I went on vacation for a week. We went to Florida for a full week. So I'm back, and I have a huge stack of new shit that I picked up. So let's jump into it. First, we are listening to Crematory. I talked about Crematory a couple of times in my CD videos when I talked about the discography CD I've got, and then I talked about these demos when I bought them just a couple of weeks ago. We're listening to demo number 2, Wrath of the Unknown. Just killer, just old school death metal, man. Fucking mandatory if you like old, dirty death metal. So, I went to Orlando, Florida for a week. My wife had a work conference down there, so I was kind of left to my own devices. And one day while she was gone, I drove over to Tampa, which is about an hour away from Orlando, and I went to Steelworker Records. And Steelworker is a mostly metal and punk and hardcore oriented store there in Tampa. If you're familiar with the old label from a few years ago called Wart Records, Kenny, the guy behind Wart, opened Steelworker, and he's doing great things. So, I picked up a bunch of stuff there. And first, I'm going to talk about some CDs. I bought 4 CDs, starting with Propagandhi, How to Clean Everything. So Propagandhi is an old Canadian punk band. They started sometime in the mid-'80s, late 80s. And this is their first record, came out in 1993. And this is a record that I've known for years and years, 20 years. And I knew some songs off of it. I knew I liked it. But I had never bought it. I had never taken that plunge. It was never in front of me and said, hey, buy that record. And it came up in my recommended stuff in YouTube recently. And I listened to it a bunch over a couple of weeks. And so I saw this at Steelworker. I grabbed it. And Propagandhi, this record sounds like NoFX if they had master's degrees in political science. It's snotty as fuck, really, really vitriolic, and they're a band that, I don't agree with their politics. They're super, super, super left-wing, super, 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 anarchist, anti-government, and I don't really fall into that, but it's such a good, catchy sing-along record, but it's just, the singer, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, sings with such a snarl in his vocals. They're real nasally. He sounds like a young Fat Mike, but he sounds like someone doing an impression of Fat Mike from NoFX. But this record's super thrashy. There's lots of fast palm-muted riffs in it. Man, it is so fucking good and catchy. And I want to start wading through the rest of their discography. From everything I've read, they're more or less like a thrash band now. But this one, How to Clean Everything, is fucking classic. Really, really, really killer album. So speaking of not agreeing with politics, Kataksu, Hunger of Elements. I talked at this at length when I was listening to it, doing a video one day, and I saw this in front of me and I snatched it up. Hunger of Elements, #1 symphonic black metal record for me of all time. This sets the bar. And it sets the bar for a genre that doesn't get a lot of credit. And it's a genre that's not, particularly all that interesting. There's a lot of just terrible shit under the symphonic black metal banner. But Kataksu is just the darkest, coldest sounding symphonic black metal band. And this record is unfucking touchable. Then I picked up Judas as Black Moth. By Current 93. This is a compilation, a double disc, and these will not stay in here. A double disc set of Current 93 material. I talked about Current 93 a little bit in the CD collection videos. I have a couple of really, really early Current 93 releases when it was more power electronics and ambient, kind of drony oriented. And then David Tibet has morphed into this really weird neofolk thing. But I'm sure a lot of you know that watch my videos, you watch Mike Seatown, and Current 93 is his favorite band, favorite artist of all time. So the first thing I did was I texted him this, a picture of it. I said, do I need this? And he said yes. He said that's a double disc set that spans a lot of his career, and it's a really, really good place to start. So I'm looking forward to diving into this. I know some of this material, but I'm really looking forward to listening to it. I haven't listened to it yet. And then I picked up, the last CD I got there is Echo Poem by Nurse with Wound. And Nurse with Wound is a group that's kind of in the same contemporary as Current 93, but I don't know anything about them. I have an old Nurse with Wound bootleg cassette tape that I think I've listened to once, and I didn't care for it because the quality's really bad. But I have no idea how this reflects in their discography or where it falls. It says that it is music inspired by the film Last Year at Marienbad, which I'm not familiar with. I listened to about a third of this today. It's one 48-minute long track, and for the 12 minutes that I listened to, it was just ethereal female singing with a little ambience. It's really fucking creepy, which I like, and I think that if you were to turn all the lights off and get really stupid fucking like paranoid high, it would fuck you up. But I'm looking forward to listening to this more in the background when I'm doing something. But I need to kind of check out like where this falls. I think it's about 10 or 12 years old. And see how this fits in with the Nurse with Wound discography. Also, while I was in Orlando, I hooked up with a buddy of mine, Ed, and I was at his house, and he just gave me this compilation, Iron Bonehead label compilation, number 7. It's got Abhor, which I really like. They're kind of like a grim black metal band with like horror movie keyboards. Atomicide, Embrace of Thorns, Prosternator, who I like, and Summon, that's not the Summon from 15 years ago on Morbone Records. I listened to a couple of songs on this in the car the other day, but it's a compilation. Like metal compilations are a dime a dozen. I'll check it out. Then, when I got home from vacation, I had a CD waiting on me. And I ordered this months ago, and I think it was a pre-order, and I didn't realize it. I was getting kind of impatient because it never showed up, but I think it was a pre-order. And this is Inundated with Decomposed Torsos by Heterodelphi. This is an Indonesian brutal death metal kind of slam band, and it is just absolutely fucking sick. Sickest of the sick. New band, 2-piece. It's just gross sounding, you know, lots of breakdowns, nasty gargled vocals, lots of pinch harmonics, and really, really killer artwork by Paolo Girardi. Paolo Girardi, of course, is the Italian painter who's done tons of covers, but he's never really done like brutal death metal stuff, and it fits so well. And Heterodelphi has a really killer logo that's not symmetrical. But this is a good record. If you like brutal, fucking sick, guttural death metal, Heterodelphi is a band to be on the lookout for. So, then I bought a bunch of records. I went to Steelworker in Tampa, and then the next day, a couple days later, I went to Park Avenue CDs, which was funny. They had so few CDs in this place. Park Avenue CDs in Orlando, and I bought a couple records. But at first thing I grabbed at Steelworker, Immortal, Pure Holocaust, Stone Cold Classic. This is the most recent reissue. I love this record. It was the first, second Immortal I ever heard. I bought this and Diabolic Full Moon Mysticism 15, 16, 17 years ago. And I still have Diabolical, but I sold my copy of Pure Holocaust. Like, I had a couple of them that I bought for wholesale when I was trying to do a distro when I was like 20 years old. And I oversold them, and I didn't keep one for myself. But I've always had like a copy on my computer, and it's my favorite Immortal by far. And these first two records are kind of where it began and ended with me with Immortal. I've listened to Blizzard Beasts and Damned in Black and Battles in the North very, very little. And I guess I really just liked the early Demonaz material, but I never realized it was because of Demonaz until much later. When I, did some reading and some research on how the band dynamic worked, and I noticed that it says Sons of Northern Darkness. I didn't realize that was a tag they used that long ago before they named the record that. And I do not like that record. I listened to it once when it came out. It's super thrashy and sterile sounding. But Pure Holocaust is fucking untouchable. Saw it in front of me, had to grab it. It's on rad beer-colored vinyl, which makes no sense. Like a nasty white-black, like clear splatter would be cool for this. And that may exist, but this was the one that was in front of me. But one complaint I have, since I'm a graphic designer and I'm really anal about it, is that they have taken Immortal's logo and they've done something to it in Adobe Illustrator called live tracing. And they probably took a lower resolution copy of it. And when you live trace something, the program automatically finds the edges of every element and it smooths them out, and it creates a version of the logo that you can blow up virtually as big as you want to. But what it does is it takes all of the texture out of it. And it makes the corners and the edges kind of soft looking. It's just, me knowing it and have the trained eye, I can look at it and immediately say, that was really hastily live traced. There's some other stuff you could do to make that look cooler, but that's just a minor qualm. This record's untouchable. If you like cold grim black metal, you have to have that. Next, I grabbed 2 Iron Maiden records. So, Iron Maiden is one of my favorite bands of all time. I will talk about them at length in just a couple of videos. I have just about every CD, and I'm going back and I'm slowly buying them on vinyl. I have had Number of the Beast for 20 years or something, and I've got a few more records. But I grabbed these. These are both early presses, Capitol Records, EMI presses. I'd have to look and see, like, on Discogs, how old, like, when they actually were released. But these are early presses. They're both in pristine condition. I'm not going to take them out. They've got those fucking jackets, those sleeves on them. You have to undo like that. I fucking hate them. And the next, I need to buy a pack of sleeves, and I'm going to replace everything I have like that. But man, I fucking love Iron Maiden so much. And they're just one of the greatest bands. And I've been into them for a long time. 20 years, 25 years. Got into them when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. And I saw these and they were just, I had to fucking get them. So then, another band I grabbed 2 records from is The Descendants. And this is 2 more just gap fillers. I love The Descendants. I talked about them a little bit. The only Descendants CD I own is the newest album. Cool to Be You is the next most recent album, but it came out in like 2004. So it's old as fuck. I mean, it's over 15 years old now. Or it's almost 15 years old. And a lot of people, like, they don't like this era of the Descendants. It was like newer Descendants, even though it's that old now. But man, I love this record. And there's so many good songs on it. Talking, Blast Off, She Don't Care, fucking One More Day, Anchor Grill, Dry Spell. Killer, man. Fucking killer. I love this band. And then Bonus Fat. This was brand new. So that the Cool to Be used. This was a brand new, still sealed copy of Bonus Fat. This originally came out in the late 80s, like 87. And it's just some bonus, like, B-sides. And it's just some stuff that was never anywhere else. And I had to grab it. It was cheap, and it's Descendants. It fucking rules. So then, while I was still at Steelworker, I grabbed Burial by Death in June. And I talked about Death in June in my CD videos. I've got a handful of their CDs. I've got a few of their records. And Death in June, of course, is a neo-folk project, so it's lots of acoustic guitars and singing, and it's really dark and somber and morose sounding. And this is my favorite album. And the song Sons of Europe is my favorite Death in June song. Death in June has gotten a lot of flack for their imagery and their lyrical content and kind of their image, which is all horseshit. This record came out in '84. It was their second album, so it's over 30 years old, 35 years old almost. And this version, the jacket is textured. And I don't really understand why, like what the reference is of why this is a textured jacket. It's cool, but I just don't understand like the point of it. And this is on 200-gram vinyl, so it's super heavy vinyl. It's black vinyl, and it should sound really, really fucking good when I listen to it. It's been remastered for vinyl, but I am really, really looking forward to this. And this is a foil stamped copy, number 934 of 1000. So that's cool. Then I went to Park Avenue CDs, and they are specifically called Park Avenue CDs. And when you walk in, it's a huge store. They take up 2 units in a strip mall. They've been there for years. And they had probably... Their CDs are probably like half of my CD collection. So maybe like 1,000 CDs is what they had in the store. Which is not a lot when you're looking at a CD bin. And then they had just thousands of records. So they should probably change their name. And I picked up 2 more Iron Maiden records. So, these are both brand new presses. Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, of course, came out in '88. It followed Somewhere in Time, and arguably that's their best record. Somewhere in Time is my favorite. This one's probably a close second. And it rules. Now, what's funny is when I was at Steelworker, he had an original press of this, like an old, like maybe first press. And it was in decent condition, and it was $35. I said, nah, I'm going to pass. And then this one was brand new, and I paid $30 for it. And I kind of wish I had bought the OG press, but I know this one is going to sound stellar because all of these re-releases were remastered for vinyl. So it's going to be awesome. But this is when the band hit their stride. You know, this was the 5th record with Bruce, I think, 4th or 5th. And it's good, man. I'm glad I finally got this on vinyl. And then Brave New World, which was the Bruce comeback record. And it's a double LP, big gatefold. I think a gatefold is better suited for like some awesome artwork and not just a picture. Because there's another picture there. And there's another picture on the inner sleeves. But it's a double LP. And, you know, I got into Iron Maiden in the mid to late 90s when Blaze Bayley was in the band. And my introduction to them was the Best of the Beast compilation. And I used to always skip the Blaze Bayley songs. And I was kind of bummed because, like, I'd never get to see the Iron Maiden I'd fallen in love with. And then they announced in, like, '99 that Bruce had rejoined the band. And I was riding around one day listening to the radio in my car for whatever reason. I never listened to the radio. And this song was playing on, like, I always had the radio tuned into, like, just the rock station. And the song comes on and the guitars catch me. And I'm like, this is cool. This isn't, like, the same shit I hear over and over on this radio station. And I was like, that's Bruce Dickinson singing. And when it got done, they were like, that was a new track from Iron Maiden. And this record, this radio station never, ever, ever, ever played stuff like that. But for whatever reason, that promo probably fell in their lap and they played it. And it was The Wicker Man. And The Wicker Man is probably, to this day, my favorite Iron Maiden song. And this record may be, behind Somewhere in Time, my second favorite Iron Maiden record. In my opinion, it's such just a glorious fucking comeback. There's some slower, longer songs on this. And I know some people like that don't like some of the songs on here. But I mean, everyone on Wicker Man, Ghost of the Navigator, Brave New World, Blood Brothers, Out of the Silent Planet. the Nomad, man, it's fucking rule. This is when they came back with all 3 guitar players that have been in the band. They've had the same lineup now for almost 20 years. I love this record, and it had never been on regular vinyl. There's a picture disc version that came out around then, I guess, when it came out the first time. And I'm not a big picture disc fan, and it's not something I would ever go out of my way to buy. But then they reissued every album over the last year, and they reissued boxes to put them in, like a box set. And this is one of the last ones they released on vinyl, and I'm so glad I got it. It literally just came out like a few months ago, maybe a year ago. I think when I saw them last July, 1 year ago. I think that it was out around then. But anyway, Brave New World, Iron Maiden, I love it. Let's talk about Iron Maiden. Let's talk about these records. That's it. That's all the new shit I have. I bought a couple of Blu-rays, which I left downstairs, but I'll put them in another video. So I'm glad to be back. I feel like I've been away from YouTube for a while. I hope that everybody's sticking around and watching now that I'm back. And I'm going to try to churn these out with the frequency that I was a few weeks ago. So let's talk about these. Comment, like, subscribe, tell your friends. I'll talk to you guys later.